Hello and welcome to NPS Now, your source for news and information about Norfolk Public Schools. I'm your host, Karen Tanner, and I have two very special guests here with me today to celebrate something that's going to happen special at their school. We have Charlene Felleton, principal of Taylor Elementary School, and Yolanda Brown, a fifth grade teacher at Taylor Elementary. Welcome to NPS Now.
Thank you. Thank you.
You guys are getting ready to come upon an important landmark, a milestone with your school at Taylor. And before we get started, Charlene, you began your career, 20 years ago at Taylor? What was special then and now about the school?
I started at Taylor in 1997 as a kindergarten teacher. It was very special at that time being a new teacher, but also going into a building that I knew was so celebrated and loved. As a kindergarten teacher, you feel warm right away in the classroom with parents welcoming you and bringing their children in and celebrating. And that's still there today. Parents are very active in the community. They're in our building every day. They're supporting our teachers, our classrooms. They're involved. Throughout the summer, I have people enroll their children and they say, we have moved to this neighborhood so that we can bring our children to W.H. Taylor. And so that's still the community that we are today.
You were there 20 years ago and you're getting ready to celebrate the 100th school anniversary.
Absolutely.
That's exciting. And so I'm sure, Yolanda, you've got some great historical facts to share with us today.
Well, yes, I've worked actually all summer looking at newspaper articles and reading. I didn't get any other summer reading done, but I got that done. There'll just be all kinds of interesting things going on. I think the most interesting fact that I learned was that in 1918, just about a year after the school opened, there was a Spanish flu epidemic in Norfolk, and the hospitals were all full. So Taylor was opened as a hospital, a temporary hospital. There were classrooms that were reserved for men, some for women, and some for children. And there were actually a couple of classrooms that were used as morgues. So,
wow.
Yeah. And if you read the original custodian's account of the history, he said that they charged $1 a day to stay in the hospital. But if you couldn't afford it, you stayed for free. So I thought that was really, really interesting. We have a wonderful statue of George Washington in our atrium that's been there since 1922. It was given by Ms. Janet Taylor and the Taylor family. At one time, I like this story, in 1965, a child was throwing a football in the hall and broke George's arm. Poor George. But several years
now, right?
Yes, several years later, in 1977, Ms. Taylor paid to have it repaired. So it's really interesting, the history of Taylor.
That is awesome. Charlene, so you all have an event planned for October 14th. Tell us about that day.
October 14th is going to be our centennial celebration, but also our fall carnival. We have spent a lot of time tracking down a lot of our alumni, and they've been invited to this event. We are going to have an alumni celebration in the auditorium. We're going to offer school tours by our children. Our children are going to take some of the alumni through the new facility. We are also going to set up a temporary museum with some of the historical pieces that we have found throughout our treasure hunt during the summer.
Okay, now you know she shared some facts, so now you got to kind of tell us what's going to be in that museum.
Okay, so we are going to do a timeline with some of the pictures we found. We found several class pictures, some of which date back into the 30s.
Yes, 30s.
I believe.
Wow.
Class pictures. We also have some paintings that were donated to the school by the Taylor family. We have some relics from the old building, some of the old bricks that were still held on to, but we also have the school bell, the original school bell that was preserved and brought back to the school recently. So we have lots of different things, a lot of photographs, a lot of pieces that some of the alumni have been excited to share with us and bring back to the school so that we could display it in our museum.
Yolanda, is there one particular item that's going to be on display that just stood out to you as interesting?
Well, probably, I think in 1965, 67, they had a 50-year anniversary, and there were pictures of a pageant that they put on where a lot of the kids were dressed up as the Taylor family and different people from history. But I like the most probably the play that was written in 1982 by a group of students about the flu epidemic and the Southgate Lee family. His wife, I guess, was a nurse at that temporary hospital. And I just really think it's cool that one of the writers of that play was Amy Lee, who was Southgate's granddaughter. So she was going there when the 75th anniversary came about, and they won an award for a history award for the writing of that play. Unfortunately, I only know that about Amy Lee because I spoke with her mother, but I don't know any of the other students who were involved with writing that play, but I really like that.
See, this is great that you can have a museum and all these interesting facts about Taylor. So what are some things that the kids are going to be participating in that day?
Outside, we're going to have our traditional carnival. We've tried to bring back some of the old-fashioned carnival games, the pig toss, the ring toss, the duck shoot. There'll be a dunk tank, confetti eggs, lots of food, some entertainment, just lots of very family-friendly activities for everybody to participate in.
And you mentioned reaching out to the alumni. So who are some of the special guests that's going to be there, Yolanda, you think?
Well, there are a lot of prominent dentists and doctors and lawyers and just citizens around the area, but we also are hoping to have the Honorable Lydia C. Taylor, who is a descendant of Walter Heron Taylor. She plans on coming. She was a former circuit court judge.
Yes.
And we are also hoping to have 6 of the past principals with us. Mr. Ted Forte was a principal in 1950. I'm going to see if I can get them all right. Robert Hahn was a principal in the 60s. Yep. I'm going to look at my cheat sheet. Michael Caprio.
Yes.
And Martha Cannon. George Boothby, who is the son of a 1950s principal, Neil Boothby. And I believe, then it goes to Mary Ann Bowen. Yeah, and Martha Cannon was the first woman president. Woman president? Oh my God.
Woman principal.
Woman principal.
I'm sorry, Taylor.
There you go.
That was perfect.
I'm nervous. But yeah, you're the third.
Yes.
So Mary Ann was the second, and she was there quite a while. And then we have Charlene. So we'll have 7 principals. And possibly Sam Ray was a principal in the 50s as well, and his wife is still around. So hopefully
And so
she'll
we
be
have
there.
a lot of people still in the community
Yes,
here.
Absolutely.
a lot
And
of
so
people.
do you find that some of your teachers that actually teach there are living in our community?
Absolutely. Actually, Ms. Brown is one of those teachers who lives
Really?
within our
Yes.
community.
Yes, I moved there a little less than 3 years ago. I just really, when I started teaching there, I love the sense of community. The way just people are just, they take to you. And like when you walk your dog, you know their name, they know your name, they know your dog's name. You know, you see people with other people's kids all the time. I'm like, oh, what are you doing with them? Oh, well, so-and-so had to go someplace, so I've got their kids for the day.
Oh, awesome.
It's just a real sense of community, old-fashioned type of feeling. I actually, well, when was the last time you heard of a teacher being asked to dinner at someone's house, at
Wow.
a student's house?
Right.
I was actually invited to Thanksgiving dinner last year and went to a student's house for Thanksgiving
That's
dinner.
wonderful.
So,
That's
yeah.
wonderful. Well, this sounds like an exciting day. So, Charlene, I need you to recap all the details, the date, time, and a location.
Okay, so save the date for October 14th at 12 o'clock till 4 p.m. The alumni celebrations will be about 12 o'clock to 2. That's when we'll do the school tours and the alumni celebration in the museum. But until 4 o'clock, there'll be food, lots of activities, games for families and children of all ages. And then we do have plenty of parking on the streets around the school, but we are reserving some of the parking spaces to the back of the building for our alumni and some of the handicapped guests that we are expecting. So it's going to be a great event. So 12 to 4, October the 14th.
Exciting. What an exciting day to honor a
Yes.
school for being in existence for over 100 years. Thank you,
100
ladies, for
years.
coming on the show.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
welcoming
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you.
You are welcome. And we want you to stay tuned for more NPS Now.
Welcome back to NPS Now. I'm Steve Sutmiller, Senior Coordinator of Athletics. Today in the studio, we have something a little bit different to talk about, and we're going to talk about rowing at the high school level. And we have James Thompson from Hampton Roads Rowing, and I'm going to let you talk about all your the organization, the proper name of it. But you called me, and we had a conversation. We wanted to be able to have an opportunity to promote rowing to our students, and this is one platform that I said that we could do this, and I appreciate you coming in to talk about rowing.
Great. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity
Okay.
to come in here today to talk to you.
All right, so before we get into this, let's talk a little bit about who is James Thompson, and let's
Well,
go.
I'm a local guy, graduated from Granby High School,
Okay.
went to school at Old Dominion University, and I've lived here all my life.
All right, so you've been involved in rowing for a number of years.
I have.
So tell us how it got started and where we are today with rowing in Norfolk.
Okay. Well, about 30 years ago, a group of people locally had the idea of starting a rowing club. So put together the Hampton Roads Rowing Club and had some people locally who were interested in rowing that came together and started building the Hampton Roads Rowing Club. And it wasn't too long after that that a group of high school students came together and wanted to learn how to row. And so the initial group, the first group, was some students from Virginia Beach and also from Norfolk. And the coach of the group was Roy Newton, who was an experienced rower, and he lived in Norfolk, or no, actually he lived in Virginia Beach. And his grandson was a Maury student. And so a group of Maury students came together and put together a club. So Maury was the first school in the local area to have a rowing team, and that was in the early 90s.
So we have Maury, and then we also have Granby that participates in rowing as well.
That's correct.
Okay, so what we want to try to get out today is, how can we get kids from Booker T, Norview, Lake Taylor interested, and even down to the middle school level, how can we get those interested? So
Sure.
let's talk about how can we get these people interested, these students interested in being part of rowing.
Great. From the beginning, our goal was to try to get a team at each school. And so, like we say, Maury and Granby has a team, and we've tried in the past to get school teams started at the other schools, but it's difficult. And the number one thing is probably the coaches. And we've had, for a short period of time, had a team at Norview and one at Lake Taylor. And for one reason or another, the coaches had to leave, and so we couldn't keep that going. But now the focus is, kind of the trend across the country is to put together a community team, so to speak. Could happen locally, where all of the any student from the Norfolk Public Schools, from any of the schools, can participate in the team, whether or not their school has an individual team or not.
Okay, so let's get into what are some of the benefits if a student chooses to participate in rowing. What benefit can they obtain from this?
Well, the benefits are many. Just rowing generally is just a great sport. It's the number one sport for teamwork and dedication to a team, and just all the benefits that come out of just being with a team. And also the advantages for getting into college, or particularly for female athletes, are just numerous. There's a lot of college teams that are interested in recruiting collegiate athletes for their teams. And with Title IX requirements now, many schools, many colleges have rowing teams to take care of the Title IX requirements, the equal scholarships for both sides.
So you mentioned something that's intriguing. You said you've had some former rowers, they were able to get a college scholarship. So talk about some of the success stories that we've had.
Okay. Over the years, we've had quite a few, particularly with Maury and all the teams locally. One in particular that comes to mind is Kamani Williamson, who was a Maury rower for several years, and then when she graduated, she was recruited to row at University of Miami, and she finished up her college time there at the University of Miami, and was able to row on a scholarship. And then we have another one, Ashley Edwards, who was a coxswain for Maury when she first started learning about rowing in high school. And when she graduated, she was recruited by Sacramento State, and she finished rowing there for 4 years. and then she got a United States Rowing Association scholarship for a year at Harvard. Now she's back in the area working for Old Dominion University in the athletic department.
All right, let's talk about, anytime you have a club activity, there has to be some cost involved. All right, so what are some associated costs with being part of the rowing club?
Well, the rowing really isn't a cheap sport. Number one, the boats are fairly expensive, and they're fairly fragile. And so part of being on the team is learning how to really handle these boats and knowing how to take care of them and making sure that they last. They're fragile, but they last a long time. And we're able to buy used boats for the high school level, which makes it a little bit easier, but a new 8, for instance, is upwards of $30,000, and a 4 can be $20,000. We're able to find some good used boats, which can be a big help. But the equipment's expensive, the insurance is expensive. We're very fortunate to have the Sigurd and Trafton Robertson Rowing Center at Lakewood Park, which is a great facility, and we have some cost associated with that, primarily to cover the maintenance in the building, and entry fees for races and launch boat gas.
With all these fees, what would a student, what could they expect to come out of pocket with, roughly?
Roughly speaking, probably around $350 to $400, $500 a year, and that could include activities that take place all year long.
All right, so I mean, we have plenty of student athletes that that are out there that may have an interest in that.
Sure.
So, again, how can we get that information out? I know this is one platform, but how can they contact you to be part of this?
My email address is jlthomson@cox.net.
Okay. Well, James, we could talk a lot about rowing. You have a lot of information. Appreciate you coming down here. Again, good information. We hope we can attract some students for you and continue success with the rowing program.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
All right. More NPS Now after this.
Welcome back to NPS Now. With us today is 2 special guests here to talk about Sprint's 1 Million Project. With us today is Jesse Zamora. He's the Interim Senior Director for Information Technology, and Michael Adams. He is the Apple Device Manager for Network Services. Welcome, gentlemen, to NPS Now.
Oh, nice to be here.
I'm glad to have you both on the show. We have a great opportunity through Sprint 1 Million Project. Tell us, Jesse, what is that about?
Yes, the Sprint 1 Million grant project was awarded to Norfolk Public Schools just recently, about a few months ago. And basically, Sprint's goal is to bridge the homework gap across America. Statistically speaking, about 70% of teachers are now assigning internet-based homework. So how are students who do not have internet access going to be able to complete their homework assignments? Based on the need of these students, Sprint has found a way to help students. And basically, they're going to be giving Norfolk Public Schools 300 mobile devices to help achieve their goals in education.
And that is going to be awesome. And Mike, as our Apple Device Network Manager, you're going to be working intimately with this project. So tell us, why were we selected in Norfolk?
What we did is Sprint reached out back in March, giving information to the different school divisions concerning their program, where they wanted to pilot programs in different areas and try to get select school systems. We had already been involved with the Apple Connected program, which I've been working with, which also provides internet capability and an entire school from Apple. So with Sprint reaching out, we wanted to go ahead, make our applications, and basically give them the exact same answer we gave to Apple. We have plenty of students that do not have internet capability at home, and we all believe that it's the best thing to do is give them the access to be able to complete their homework, research assignments, and everything from home, vice being able to either have to stay after school or go to the public library.
This is a great opportunity. So what are some of the criteria that the students have to meet to participate?
Sprint set out specific guidelines. In order to participate in the program, they either have to have no internet access at home at all, they would have limited internet access, or if they have internet access with multiple students in the same family. This would enable them to put the program specifically to that 9th grade student, allowing them to access, and still the family would have the internet access for the other school children.
And Jesse, you kind of mentioned earlier this 300 devices. So how are they going to be distributed to the schools, and how will we know who will get tablets or mobile devices?
Sure. So we have worked with Sprint, and Sprint basically, it's a 5-year program. So we found that it was best to utilize it with our 9th graders. So that way, the 9th graders can use it all throughout their entire high school career. The 300 devices are going to be divided into 60 devices per high school.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so how are you going to communicate this to parents, Mike?
The first message to parents will be through the Blackboard communication program, where the announcement will go through the phones and tell the parents this is a program that's coming out. The school themselves will be sending a student technology survey home. That technology survey will be having the parents identify if they meet Sprint's criteria with the internet at home, no internet at home, or multiple students on internet at home. Once that notification is complete, the technology survey comes back, then the schools will sift through the papers and determine the eligible students, and from there they'll do the selection process.
So when do you think the devices will actually get into the hands into the students in the schools?
Well, our goal is to have the devices activated the middle of October to the end of October. Sprint's goal is actually October 16th to the 17th as far as getting it activated, but as far as distributing it to the students, we're giving ourselves between the middle and the end of October.
Now we're getting tablets, we're getting phones. Are there going to be some downloading, capabilities or apps that the students can or can't download using these devices?
The phones themselves, they are going to be specifically internet capable. So they'll be able to hotspots basically. They'll be able to connect their own device to it. What we've decided with the dividing, because our devices are strictly given to us by what Sprint provides. They cannot provide 100% tablet, they cannot provide 100% cell phone, so they gave us a distribution. Our plan is to distribute the cell phone devices to the 2 high schools that already have 1-to-1 iPad ratios, which would be Lake Taylor High School and Booker T. Washington. That way, all they need to do is activate the hotspot feature, and then they would use the iPad that we are already providing them.
And real quick, with those phones, will they be able to dial in, dial out, or what are the capabilities?
There'll be no cell phone service or messaging capabilities other than 911 service.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. And you just mentioned something interesting about Lake Taylor and Booker T. So they're already participating in a program that we have here in Norfolk?
Correct. A few years back, Virginia implemented the e-backpack program, which basically puts an iPad in the hands of every high school student in select high schools that applied for the program. Booker T and Lake Taylor High School both got accepted into the program, and this last summer we made the final purchase to ensure we have 100% capable iPads to provide 1-to-1 iPad for every student in the school.
And see, our students will be using this technology every day, so do they have, or do you all have any concerns with connectivity or bandwidth?
Yes, Sprint is giving the students 3 gigs of data for free. Once the data is reached, they will be throttling down their internet connectivity to 2G speeds.
So you mentioned Booker T, and we talked about them before in the tablet program. Why is it so important for NPS to be able to participate in this type of program?
So the whole point between the process of all the programs that we're trying to implement here at NPS is to ensure we have technology capable students. There are so many situations in this city alone and other cities where students leave school, they go home, they have no means of homework, no means of reaching the internet, no means of anything. In the high school realm, those students really need access to the internet. They need to be able to do their homework, they need to be able to do their research, and it also includes colleges and everything else. If we limit their capabilities, they pretty much can't do anything until they're in school, and at that point, they're already in classes every day. When are they going to find the time to do it?
Right. I'm glad you all came on the show today to talk about this, and so we want to encourage parents to look for those parent surveys and return them in a timely manner so that y'all can participate in this great program. Thank you both for coming on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
We want to thank you for watching NPS Now. It airs weekly on WNPS Channel 47, or you can view us online at www.npsk12.com. If you have any great story ideas or information you'd like to share, email us at nps_news@npsk12.com. Again, we want to thank you for watching NPS Now.